God's perfect timing versus our expectations. Why the delay has a purpose. Do you ever feel like you're waiting for something that never comes? Maybe it's a breakthrough in your career, a long-awaited answer to prayer, or a dream you've nurtured for years. The wait can be agonizing, can it? But what if the delay is not a setback, but a setup for something greater? Before starting, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, so you will never miss more life-changing videos like this one. God's timing. Why does it feel so slow? Have you ever wondered why it seems like God's clock is running slower than ours? You pray, you plan, and yet nothing seems to happen. The silence can feel deafening, making you question, is God even listening? But here's the thing. God's timing is not about meeting our deadlines. It's about aligning with His divine plan. Unlike us, God sees the entire tapestry of our lives. He knows that rushing into a blessing before we're ready can lead to disaster. Sometimes, the delay is His way of protecting us from mistakes we can't foresee. Waiting can feel like wandering through a desert, but God uses these moments to strengthen our dependence on Him. Each delay holds a purpose, even if we can't see it immediately. Trusting His timing often means letting go of our control and embracing the unknown. The hidden purpose in every delay. Why would a loving God allow us to wait? Isn't He supposed to give us the desires of our hearts? These are questions we all wrestle with. But have you noticed that some of your greatest lessons came not during the fulfillment of your dreams, but during the waiting season? Delays teach us patience, perseverance, and trust. They shape our character and prepare us for what's ahead. Think about it. If you were handed your biggest dream tomorrow, would you truly be ready for it? Or would you crumble under its weight? God delays because He's more interested in your growth than your comfort. In every delay, God invites us to lean closer to Him. These pauses in our journey refine us, building resilience and spiritual depth. They help us find beauty in the process, not just the outcome. Remember, waiting is often the stage where God's masterpiece takes shape. Biblical delays. Proof of God's perfect plan. Does waiting on God always lead to something better? The Bible answers with a resounding yes. But don't just take my word for it. Let's look at the lives of people who had to wait. Take Abraham, for instance. God promised him descendants as numerous as the stars. Yet Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac to be born. Imagine the nights he spent wondering if God had forgotten His promise. Yet through the wait, Abraham learned unwavering faith. Then there's Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his own brothers. After years of imprisonment and hardship, he rose to become a ruler in Egypt. Would Joseph have been ready for such responsibility if he hadn't endured those trials? Their stories show us that God's delays always come with lessons and eventual fulfillment. What happens when we rush God? What if we decide not to wait? After all, taking control seems like the logical thing to do when life feels stagnant. But have you ever noticed how things tend to fall apart when we force our timing over God's? Take Saul from the Bible. Instead of waiting for the prophet Samuel to offer a sacrifice, Saul acted on his own. His impatience cost him his kingdom. This isn't just a story, it's a warning for us. Acting out of impatience can lead to missed opportunities, broken relationships, and unnecessary pain. Impatience tempts us to settle for less than God's best. It blinds us to His greater plans, leaving us with regrets and struggles we could have avoided. Waiting may feel hard, but the cost of rushing is often much greater. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. When God asks you to wait, does that mean sitting idly? Absolutely not. Waiting is not passive. It's an active season of preparation. But what does preparation really mean? It could be growing your skills, deepening your faith, or building the relationships that will support your future. Think of it like a farmer planting seeds. The harvest doesn't appear immediately, but the work done during the waiting ensures that it eventually does. Use this time to discover and develop your God-given talents. Serve others, focus on self-improvement, and stay rooted in prayer. These actions make the waiting season fruitful and meaningful. God's timing in today's world. Why does God's timing feel even harder to accept in today's fast-paced world? Everywhere we look, we're bombarded with instant solutions, quick fixes, overnight successes, and fast-track plans. But God's way often goes against the grain of our culture. While the world says, "Get it now," God says, "Be patient." Trusting His timing requires faith in a world that glorifies control. It's not easy, but it's worth it. In a society addicted to speed, waiting becomes a sacred act of rebellion. It's a reminder that lasting blessings require time, patience, and trust in something greater than ourselves. Learning to trust when it makes no sense. How do you trust God's timing when it feels like nothing is happening? Let's be honest. Faith is hardest when the silence is loudest. But here's a comforting thought. Even in the waiting, God is working behind the scenes. Consider this. When you plant a seed, you don't immediately see it sprout. But underground, roots are forming, preparing for the growth you'll eventually witness. The same is true in our lives. The dangers of comparing your timing to others. Why does everyone else seem to get their blessings faster? It's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point. But comparison is the thief of joy, isn't it? What we often forget is that everyone's journey is different. God's timing for you isn't late, it's unique. While you're busy envying someone else's timeline, you might miss the blessings unfolding in your own life. The assurance of God's promises. Does God really come through on His promises? The answer is a resounding yes. But His promises come with a caveat. They're fulfilled on His terms, not ours. Remember Hebrews 10:23? Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for He who promised is faithful. This verse doesn't say if or maybe. It says, He is faithful. When we anchor our trust in God's faithfulness, we find peace even in the waiting. How to find peace in the waiting season? How do you keep your faith alive when waiting feels unbearable? The key is to shift your focus. Instead of obsessing over what hasn't happened, look at what God has already done. Gratitude has a way of changing our perspective. When we focus on God's past faithfulness, it becomes easier to trust His future plans. Prayer and meditation on His Word also remind us of His promises and keep our hope alive. The bigger picture, God's plan versus our expectations. Why do we struggle to see the bigger picture? It's because we're focused on the here and now, while God sees the beginning, middle, and end. Imagine you're reading a book, but you only have access to one page at a time. Would you jump to conclusions about the story, or would you trust the author to weave it all together? That's what trusting God feels like, believing the author knows how your story ends. Delays aren't denials. They're redirections. What if the delay isn't about waiting, but about redirection? Sometimes, God closes doors not to punish us, but to protect us or guide us to something better. Think about all the times you wanted something desperately, only to realize later it wasn't what you needed. God's delays are often His way of saying, I have something better for you. Just wait. So what part of this message resonated most with you? Have you ever experienced a delay that turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to watch more inspiring videos and teachings. Life is a journey of faith, and together, we'll keep exploring its mysteries. Thanks for watching. Stay hopeful, stay trusting, and we'll see you in the next video.